Come in, come in. Hi, nice to see you. Come on in. Just got this Sherlock Holmes, I think it's the Deerstalker, going. Lovely big bowl. A drop of hard bag. Anyway, nice to see you again. You might have been wondering, I don't know if you've noticed, I've had it propped up against the Fender Blues Junior there for a while. You may remember that a while back you found me in Nashville. You managed to track me down to the house of Phil Keaggy, the absolutely amazing guitar player, one of the great guitar players of all time. And by a happy set of circumstances, I've become friends with him. And I think you called when this record that we've made together was literally just it had been physically arrived in the world. It hadn't actually been released yet. And we were signing copies. I mean, I can hardly believe I'm saying this record we made together. I mean, because I'm not really anybody in the kind of recording or guitar world. I'm in awe of Phil's guitar playing. I mean, you may say one of my guitars is leaning over there. It's a sort of copy of an early Fender early Gibson archtop guitar. But I'm pretty much a three chords and the truth guy, but I love his playing. Anyway, our friendship arose, as I think I mentioned then, out of two common interests, or you might even go so far as to say passions. One of them was for C.S. Lewis, and the other was for pipes and pipe smoking, and also perhaps the occasional dram. And of course, underneath that, we had our shared Christian faith. Anyway, to my amazement, when I started reading poems to him, he started playing his guitar, and eventually this album, Strings and Sonnets, came out. So I had this kind of advanced copy, and it says, "Thank you, Malcolm," and it's signed by Phil. But then the other day, this little box arrived with the CDs, which made me know it really had been released. Anyway, looking at it and listening to it again, I mean, his guitar playing on it is miraculous. And he takes my poems and, as it were, interprets them from within or from beneath and plays this wonderful music. There's also, if you just like the music rather than the poetry, there's another side of it, which is just the music. Pretty good on its own. Anyway, I thought I might read you just a little bit of what I said on the album sleeve. But so the album, the design is by a guy called Ned Bustard, and he's a brilliant woodcut artist, and he's got all the motifs that you would find in the songs. There's a singing bowl. I'm going to read you that poem in a minute. Anyway, then there's a thing by Kevin Belmonte about the album, and then there's the two of us each giving an account of what the whole thing was like and how it happened. So I thought, just for this visit, I might just read you a bit of what I said about this album, and then I'd read you 2 or 3 parts of the poems that are on it. In fact, the first 3. So I wrote here, the poet Paul Verlaine said in his poem Art Poétique that poetry should be la musique avant toute chose. It should be music first and foremost. That's true. All poetry aspires to become a kind of music, something I suggested in a line of my poem, The Singing Bowl. Stay with the music. Words will come in time. That line was, of course, a nod to Verlaine, but it is also an essential part of my own poetic credo. So you can imagine how thrilled I was not only to meet so superlative a musician as Phil Keaggy, but then, wonder of wonders, to discover that we might make something new together, blending his music and my poetry. The idea arose on a day that was already blessed with pipes and beer and long conversation about our mutual admiration for C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. So your visit is blessed with pipes, and as it happens, a single malt rather than beer, but conversation and mutual love for Lewis and Tolkien. So, on the album, the first 3 poems, it starts with the Singing Bowl, which is the poem I've just quoted from. Then there's a poem about C.S. Lewis, and then there's a poem about Tolkien, which kind of sets the scene, really, for the whole thing. So I thought you might like to hear those in sequence. They're all from the same book. They're from this book, The Singing Bowl, which was a kind of collection. It was a collection of my poems that came out in 2013. Goodness, so nearly, well, coming for 12 years ago. And it was a more general collection rather than a specifically devotional one. Anyway, here we go. I'll read you The Singing Bowl, and I'll read you the Lewis and Tolkien poems. So here we go. Singing Bowl. Begin the song exactly where you are. Remain within the world of which you're made. Call nothing common in the earth or air. Accept it all and let it be for good. Start with the very breath you breathe in now, this moment's pulse, this rhythm in your blood, and listen to it, ringing soft and low. Stay with the music. Words will come in time. Slow down your breathing. Keep it deep and slow. Become an open singing bowl, whose chime is richness rising out of emptiness, and timelessness resounding into time. And when the heart is full of quietness, begin the song exactly where you are. So that opens the album. And then I go on to my poem for C.S. Lewis. I may have read that to you before, I'm not sure. But I wrote it on the occasion of, or for the occasion of the 50th anniversary of his death, when he was finally recognised as a poet in Poets' Corner and in Westminster Abbey. And it says a lot of what I want to say about Lewis. So C.S. Lewis. From Beer and Beowulf to the 7 heavens, whose music you conduct from sphere to sphere, you are our portal to those hidden havens whence we return to bless our being here. Scribe of the kingdom, keeper of the door which opens onto all we might have lost, ward of a word hoard in the deep heart's core, telling the tale of love from first to last. Generous, capacious, open, free. Your wardrobe mind has furnished us with worlds through which to travel, whence we learn to see along the beam and hear at last the heralds sounding their summons through the stars that sing, whose call at sunrise brings us to our King. And then finally, I'll read you, I shall relight my pipe for this because it involves pipe smoking. I'll read you my poem, Patterns, brackets, Tree and Leaf. Now this poem was inspired by a quite famous photograph of Tolkien. It's Tolkien in old age, wearing a wonderful red waistcoat, leaning back into a tree and smoking his pipe. Into an oak tree, in fact. Oh, come on. Better. Patterns, Tree and Leaf. Tolkien is leaning back into an oak, old, gnarled, distinct in bole and burr, as from the burr and bowl of his old pipe, packed with tightly patterned shreds of leaf, the smoke ascends in rings and wreaths of air, to catch the autumn light and meet such leaves as circle through its wreaths and patter down in patterns of their own to the rich ground. Again, he contemplates the tree of tales, the roots of language and its rings of growth, the tongue and tail and teller all coeval. And he becomes a pattern making patterns, a tale telling tales and turning leaves, from the print of thumb and finger on his pipe, to the print and press and pattern of his books, and all their prints and imprints in our minds, out to this grainy patterned photograph of Tolkien leaning back into an oak. So I try to hint a little in that page on how much I owe to those two great masters of what they called mythopoeia, a kind of telling of story and myth at such a deep level that the stories and the poems become infinitely generative of new meaning for us as the years pass. Anyway, I raise a glass of Ardbeg to you, and thank you for dropping by. And I'll send you the details sometime of the record if you're interested in it. Cheers.